What's your plan for London?
What's my plans for London? Well, I would like to get London to legalise personal possession of cannabis, not make it a criminal offence and destroy the careers of young people and give them criminal records and bad work experience. So, and we want that they can grow a few plants, and that cannabis for medicine should be rescheduled from Schedule 1, because cannabis has therapeutic qualities.
As it is now for medicine, what is the situation? If someone requires it, can he get?
No, we can't, because it's illegal, and there are people who have chronic pain and badly need cannabis. But people are now realizing that they're cannabinoids, CBDs, and they are endocannabinoids in the body, or called anandamides, and they're receptors, and that cannabis helps with children who have seizures, and it has many benefits. There's a lot of scientific work about it, and we think that it should be legal for doctors to prescribe cannabis to those who are ill and need it, MS, and there is a legal cannabis being done, Sativex, which is a spray under the tongue.
Why was cannabis criminalized?
Oh, that's a long story, but it was criminalized in England in 1928, and it's been criminalized because we're part of the United Nations Convention, and there have been many reports from the Indian Hemp Commission about 100 years ago onwards, and cannabis has been demonized. And I think it's time that prohibition was lifted, because the war on drugs was an expensive failure, and to allow cannabis, which is less harmful than alcohol. Alcohol costs the National Health Service £3.5 billion a year. If they regulated and taxed cannabis, they would be able to pay for the NHS, and it would be legally controlled. Young people wouldn't be able to buy it. So let's get some practical things and move from reefer madness into the future. There's a paradigm shift all over the world, in America, and let us be part of it. I was born in South Africa of Lithuanian immigrant parents who were called Uitlanders or outsiders, and I was brought up in a racist conditioning society where we had black servants and we called all Africans natives or boy or girl. But I was working in a factory in Johannesburg, a clothing factory with Indian garment workers, when I came across the Congress movement, the African National Congress, the Indian Congress, the Congress of Democrats, which were the white liberals, and the South African Coloured People's Organization. And they were preparing for a great event called the Congress of the People, which took place 25th and 26th of June 1956. And it was a great event, and I was there. And I met Nelson Mandela, who was a lawyer. And the second day was surrounded by 200 armed police. So I had a great awakening. And I left South Africa to come and live in Europe or England.
And where did you know cannabis for the first time?
Well, I first heard when I was in London that a club I'd gone into in Soho, and those are my drama student days, was raided for Indian hemp. And I remembered in South Africa, Dacha had a terrible reputation, known as jungle cigarettes, and the white motor mechanics and fighters, jollers, used to smoke it. So, but I didn't know much about cannabis till I was in my mid-20s.
And because of cannabis, you had also trouble with justice.
Yes, yes, I had a strange case. I had one or two where they came, in 1989, they came into my shop, and it was a Rasta culture shop, and it had ethnic items and hubble bubbles, and I wasn't there, and I came to the shop and the shutter was down, and there was police cameras, and I realized they were going to take some of my stock. Well, the next thing I read in the local paper, drug squad nab Hubbly Bubblies. Notting Hill Chiefs staged a first last week. It was for a new amendment for selling things that may be used in unlawful circumstances, i.e. for the smoking of cannabis. So it was a very strange thing. I was being accused of selling cigarette papers, which could be obtained and goods that I'd been selling for 17 years. Well, it went to a magistrate court because it wasn't a big case, and the magistrate sentenced me to 3 months in prison. And nobody knew where my car was parked, and I had a wife and 3 children and the business, and I was taken to Wormwood Scrubs prison and changed into prison uniform, and the next day walked the yard and didn't know what would happen. And the day after that, I was released, and the Guardian had phoned the prison, and I had the jail sentence hanging over me, and I had an appeal. And I had a benefit for me at the London School of Economics with Benjamin Zephaniah and alternative comics, and I won my appeal. The rolling paper verdict was quashed, and I got my stock back and my expenses, and I became a sort of backstreet hero in the community and was well loved and supported by the Caribbean community, which is big here. And they tried to say I had posters of Bob Marley, known in the drugs world for his association of cannabis. And I explained to the court and the judge that Bob Marley was a prophet and a great musician too. So it was a victory. But I now will try and tell them that they should not do those sort of things. Thank you.
Some German man also wrote a poem for you.
Yes, yes. He came in the shop and he loved Rastafarian things, and he used to buy off me. And when he found out I was sentenced to jail and I was having my appeal, he wrote a poem which he sent me, which was read on my appeal. And though I'm humbled, I'm going to read it to you now. It's called Them and Us, a poem for Lee. They sent ships to the African shores to steal the people, and that was legal. They closed the doors of the underground when 100,000 people are out there in the freezing cold, and that is legal. They keep saying Mandela is a terrorist, so they keep selling weapons to apartheid. Guess what they say? It is legal. Lee Harris is a kind man, a peaceful man, a white man who loves black people, white people, people. They say Lee Harris is a criminal and they want to send him to jail for selling weapons. Oh no, we know he wouldn't. And besides, it is legal. For letting people freeze to death? Oh no, we know Lee isn't so cold as them. And besides, it is legal. For selling papers and pipes? Oh no, that's just what they say. For loving black people, for loving people, for loving. Let me tell you, they are simply scared. Scared of Lee Harris, scared of love, and scared of us. Isn't it nice? I'm very humbled to read it after 25 years and find it. And I thank all the people who have helped me and supported me to the long struggle.
As a candidate for mayor of London, what do you think about the other issues? I think the housing crisis, the transport, gentrification, and other and diversity or problems with diversity in London.
Yes, lovely. In fact, I was very pleased that you mentioned the very things that concern me. And but that's what I'd very much want: more social housing, more housing associations. Would like against gentrification, because London is a place of villages, and in the Portobello Road they're trying to turn the Westway into a sort of smart area and belongs to the people, and there's no consultation. I'd like a London grid, that everyone could have their own grid with a Tesla power battery in it, and that would be solely for London. They could use 7 hours renewable energy, you see, and I feel that the British people owe a big apology to the Caribbean community, who they invited here in the 50s to come and work on the underground and on the buses and in the hospitals, and they came to cold, unfriendly West Kensington and Brixton, where there was houses saying no coloureds please, where the police persecuted the Rastas. And so they brought their lovely music and warm spirit, and we treated them badly. And I think London needs to give them an apology.
Are there also police people on your side?
Yes, surprisingly, I find out now there's a sort of de facto decriminalisation in some police forces. The latest one is the Chief Constable of Durham in the north. He said he will not prosecute and arrest people for possession of cannabis or growing a few plants. It's a waste of time, and the waste. Police now haven't got with the police cuts, the money for it. And when I went to my mayoral's election party as candidate, won the hustings as candidate for Cista, at that party I was introduced to Tom Lloyd, who's the former Chief Constable of Cambridge, and he is against prohibition. So, and he's the chairman of the Cannabis Coalition of medical marijuana. So there's a lot of policemen, especially in Northern Ireland too. There's a whole change of heart coming around. So that's a great, good thing. And of course, Nick Clegg is now working for Richard Branson and George Soros on United Nations in April. So there's a whole big movement coming. But we have the police on our side. And it's such an honor to speak to us policemen and discuss your problems you had, and find you've got a friend, and he'll be talking for me, and I'm honored to have him there.